He guns down a mother of 3 just before Christmas. But now that it's time to pay the piper, he danced to the music. Now it's time to pay the piper. The death penalty is in place. He says he's too fat for justice, too obese for the death penalty. It's not like he's got to run around a track to the electric chair. It's death by needle. Out to Paul Campos, professor of law, joining me out of Boulder. He's an obesity law expert and author of Don't Go to Law School, Unless. Paul, I'm interested in what you've got to say. Weigh in.
We can't just execute people any which way in the United States. You know, we have a lot of law on this, and you can't undertake a execution through lethal injection unless you can do it in a reasonably humane and efficacious fashion. And so I'm not surprised that his attorneys are claiming here that they won't be able to do this in his case because, in fact, it is often very difficult to find veins for people who are very fat, especially given that in the case of lethal injection, you got to remember trained medical personnel can't really participate in these kinds of events because it's against the canons of ethics of doctors and nurses to do so.
Paul Campos, you're absolutely correct. My question to you, Paul Campos, you have a JD, do you not?
I do, yes.
And do you have an MD as well?
No, I do not.
So have you ever at any point tried to find a vein in an obese person?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, when you're talking about how hard it is to find a vein in an obese person, you do realize, Professor Campos, that the obese have surgeries every day in our country. And in fact, doctors have to find a vein for the obese patient.
Well,
that's correct, right?
Doctors aren't going to participate in this execution. Doctors are not allowed to do so under their own canons of ethics. So it's not going to be somebody who's trained to find veins in people. It's going to be somebody, prison personnel.
Professor Campos, are you telling me that the reason he should not get the death penalty is because it's going to be hard to find a vein?
Well,
that's your argument.
I wouldn't make that argument myself. I would make the argument that the reason
that's just what you just said.
This is a very problematic case, Nancy. You haven't mentioned certain aspects of it which are extremely.
Let's do.
For example, this guy didn't get a jury trial. He pled no.
Right, he pled guilty. There's not even a question. He pled no low contendory. I do not contest it.
Right, and he was obviously given what appears to be very incompetent advice by his counsel at the time because they tell him that
because it's gone up on appeal.
That if he pled no contest, he wouldn't get the death penalty. Well,
he went up on appeal. This has gone to the appellate court, Professor.
Yes, that's right. But once he's been given a death penalty, it's of course extremely difficult to reverse on appeal.
That's not true.
No, it is true. It's quite difficult.
No, it's not true.
It's quite difficult.
There are stays on the death penalty all the time, Professor. Let me ask you another question, Professor Paul Campos. How many murder trials have you actually tried?
I have not tried any murder trials. I have not done criminal law.